So, let's talk about the thinking of Yuval Noah Harari. His book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, isn't some crystal ball predicting the future. Nope, it's more like a toolbox for making sense of the here and now. Let's dive into his guide for navigating our, let's face it, pretty chaotic world.
I mean, it feels like we're just getting bombarded every single day, right? AI, climate change, political drama. It can be completely overwhelming. What Harari's book does is give us a set of critical lessons, not to tell us what to think, but to help us start asking the right questions.
First up, let's tackle technology. And we're not just talking about shiny new gadgets here. This is a force that is fundamentally rewriting the rules for how we live, how we work, and even how we think about our planet's biggest problems.
Okay, think about self-driving cars. For a lot of us, that idea still feels, well, a little weird, maybe even scary. I mean, we trust ourselves behind the wheel more than some machine, don't we? But should we?
Well, this is where the data gets really interesting. Speeding, drinking, just getting distracted by a text, turns out over 80% of fatal car accidents are caused by us, human error. Harari's point isn't to make us feel bad about our driving, it's to be optimistic about how technology could literally save countless lives.
And you know, this same logic applies to AI in the workplace. The big fear is always that robots are coming for all our jobs. But Harari suggests we look at it from a totally different angle. What if AI could actually be a partner, something that handles the boring stuff and helps us find totally new ways to contribute to society? We can even use this tech-first mindset for huge global issues like climate change. Now get this. Animal farming for meat creates more carbon emissions than every car, truck, plane, and ship on the planet combined. So Harari points to a wild technological solution, lab-grown meat, which could soon be a way cheaper and way more sustainable alternative.
But here's the catch. These big tech solutions need global cooperation to work. And that brings us to our next major lesson, politics. In a world that feels more divided than ever, Harari says we need to completely rethink how we work together. And he starts by drawing a really important line in the sand when it comes to nationalism. He defines it not as just loving your country, but as the core belief that your nation is fundamentally better than all the others.
So let's be super clear on this distinction, because it's crucial. Patriotism, that's celebrating your country's unique culture and history. Awesome. Nationalism, that's believing your nation is number one and everyone else is beneath you. And Harari argues it's that feeling of superiority that stops us from working together on problems like climate change or pandemics, because a virus really doesn't care about our borders.
Now, let me ask you something. When you think about the biggest threats to your personal safety out there in the world, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of people, the answer is terrorism. But is that what the numbers actually show?
Just look at this number, 280 times. According to Harari's analysis, air pollution is a far, far deadlier threat. His point is that our overreaction to terrorism, which is driven by fear, often causes way more political and social damage than the attacks themselves. It's all about getting some perspective back. And this change in perspective applies to war, too. See, in the past, wars were fought over stuff you could grab, gold mines, oil fields. But today, the most valuable resource on Earth is knowledge, and you just can't conquer Silicon Valley with a tank. The whole nature of conflict is changing right under our feet. So this shift from fighting over physical stuff to fighting over information, that leads us right into Harari's third big lesson, the incredible power of stories. To really get humanity, he argues, you have to realize that we are creatures who run on stories. Fiction is what moves us, often more than facts. And this is nothing new. Think about it. Large-scale human cooperation has always been built on shared stories. Ancient religions brought people together. In the 20th century, huge ideologies like fascism and communism swept the globe through powerful narratives. And today? Well, today we just call it fake news. It's the same idea, just upgraded for the digital age. Wow, I mean, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The only real difference between a passing bit of misinformation and a belief system that builds civilizations is just scale and time. The power is in the story's ability to get a massive number of people to believe in the same thing. And speaking of stories, Harari thinks a lot of our science fiction gets the future totally wrong. We're obsessed with this idea of a big war between robots and humans, right? But he predicts something way more plausible and honestly, maybe a lot more disturbing. A conflict between a tiny group of biologically or technologically upgraded superhumans and, well, the rest of us. Okay,
So we've got all these massive technological, political, and narrative challenges. What's the most important tool we have to face all this? Harari says it's not something out there, it's in here. We need to upgrade our own minds.
Harari argues that education in the future can't be about memorizing facts that are going to be outdated in 5 minutes. Instead, we need to teach these core skills, the 4 Cs: how to think critically, how to communicate, how to collaborate with others, and how to be creative. These are the tools that will help us sort fact from fiction in a world flooded with information.
Now, those skills are all about processing the world around us. But Harari says there's an even deeper, more personal tool that we absolutely have to master if we want to navigate what's coming.
And this right here, this is the core of his final lesson. With all this big data and AI, governments and giant corporations are getting scarily good at understanding us. Maybe even better than we understand ourselves. The most urgent race of our time is the race to understand our own minds before the algorithms do it for us.
So how in the world do we do that? Harari actually suggests a pretty practical path. Step 1. Realize that most of our suffering doesn't come from what happens to us, but from the reaction patterns in our own minds. And step 2, use a tool like meditation, not as some mystical thing, but as a practical way to just observe your own consciousness and see how it works without judging it.
And that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? As we get the power to literally re-engineer the world, to change life itself, have we done the most important job of all? Have we taken the time to understand the very minds that are about to wield all that power? That's the question Harari leaves us to think about.